Starfield. Starfield is out. Well, weird. Okay, Starfield is out technically. You can pay money and play Starfield now, even while hearing this. But you'll have to pay like what I think $100. I don't know what the like local price is
stupid amount
for that.
of money actually to get early access. Like
because it's like the premium edition of the game that comes with early access. And I guess by the time you're hearing this, like if you're thinking about it, then you might as well just wait the 2 days because it's out on September 6th proper. But yeah, it's out now on Xbox Series X and S and PC. We didn't have access to like early review code. I don't think there was anyone even locally who had access. You'll see later in the news that a lot of people don't have access. I can still see your toolbar on your Windows thing anyway.
What? Why?
Yeah, there we go.
The show's a mess.
So yeah, I mean it's not a huge deal. We got the early access, quote unquote code on the day of release. So I've only rarely had the chance to play it yesterday evening because I was at work and so this is like the briefest of brief first impressions before we dive into like a more articulated review down the line. But so far I can say that the opening is quite striking. I think just off the bat, this game looks really good. The character models, I know like Bethesda made a big deal about the character models in the trailers leading up to the game. And, rightly so, a lot of people were like, this still looks kind of stiff and weird and their eyes look kind of like they're looking through you. And I agreed. But at least in this opening section with these first few interactions with people, it's like a drastic improvement over previous Bethesda games. Like if I go back to, what is their last one? I guess Fallout 76 technically is the last one, but it wasn't necessarily made by them. So Fallout 4, it is like night and day difference. And that extends to just the rest of the visual makeup of the game. This is definitely a big upgrade in terms of fidelity and details that I've ever seen in a Bethesda title. It just looks modern, whereas when Fallout 4 came out, it looked like a Fallout, but still like behind the times of what a big budget AAA game should probably look like, because it's like trading fidelity for scope. But yeah, no, this has got a really good look to it, a really good aesthetic. You'll see later there's like the first ship that you see and the first city that you land in, and it all looks very nice. That whole, I hate the whole NASA punk thing that they had going. Like I think that term is strange and silly, but like I get it. It is a very they've stuck to realism as much as they can. Like what would space travel look like in the not too distant future? Exactly. Yeah, it's sci-fi, but it's like very grounded sci-fi. By what I can tell, it's not Star Wars. You know what I mean? So yeah, that part of it has really kind of sucked me in immediately, because I'm a sucker for that sort of sci-fi and those sort of aesthetics. I can already tell 2 hours in, this is straight up a Bethesda game. So like, if you were hoping that Starfield was some departure from the sort of structure or feel, at least, of a Skyrim or a Fallout, it doesn't seem like it. It just seems like that sort of thing in a much bigger world. Which can cut both ways. Like, I don't know, I'm weird, man. Like, I don't like Skyrim. I think Skyrim is boring, but I also think Skyrim is boring because I expected its main story to be interesting, and that's like probably the worst part of it. Where a lot of people will be like, no, you're meant to play the side quests and not actually focus on the story. And I'm like, I get that, but it's an RPG. Like, I went in there expecting a good main story. Whereas when I think about Bethesda games I absolutely love, I think about Fallout 3 and to a large extent Fallout New Vegas, which was Obsidian, not necessarily Bethesda. And I liked Fallout 4 as well. Like, I think it comes down to me preferring Fallout's aesthetic and world far more than Skyrim's high fantasy. because the games are identical. I think systems wise and design wise, they are very much the same.
Yeah.
And I think Starfield's going to fall into that bucket. Like, am I going to fall in love with the aesthetic and the world and kind of ignore the shortcomings of the quest structures and the story, which, according to a lot of reviews that came out this week, the main story is the weakest part of the game again, which I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand how Bethesda can make these incredible side quests that people are like lauding them for, but then the main quest is like just rote, and I don't get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool. This is much more of a shooter than anything else they've made. You know, like Fallout has guns, but Fallout is not necessary. I mean, Fallout 4 was very much... Yeah, Fallout 4 was quite a bit more of a shooter than Fallout 3. Fallout 3 was like almost a turn-based game.
Yeah, I was going to say the VAT system is what separates Fallout from the rest of the stuff, I guess, because you can 100% go and just shoot people, but like the right thing to do would be to like pause and choose where you're going to shoot, how you're going to approach the situation, whatever. So yeah, it's
and
interesting.
Fallout 4 like de-emphasized that like quite a bit, and then Fallout 76 completely made it stupid because you couldn't actually pause the game because it was online. So like your VAT system was always like a slow down thing. It was Starfield is straight up a shooter.
It's just
like
a shooter,
it's like, you know, it's not on the level of like a Destiny where you're just moving from point to point and you know, I think you still have some wiggle room to maybe be a melee character, but the first weapon they give you is a gun, and you are thrust into a shootout very quickly. So, yeah, thankfully the shooting feels good. I think it feels pretty. I mean, I've only ever in the first hour or two, I've only picked up like 2 or 3 different weapons, and they feel quite nice. They feel a bit floaty, but otherwise the gunplay feels good. Enemies are still a bit stupid. They just run towards you, so that's kind of like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But it's cool. Like the firefights are quite nice. And I think like I'm definitely going to specialize like either in ballistics weapons or like laser weapons or like, and depending on. From what I can tell, like the more you use specific weapons that are tied to specific perks, the more you'll upgrade that perk.
Okay.
So you have to use like a skill point to unlock a perk for the first like tier.
Yeah.
But then after that, I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm not entirely sure if you can then spend more points to upgrade that perk or if you have to make use of that perk to upgrade it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like it's kind of growing your character according to the way you play the game.
Yeah.
So like already I started based on the background I chose for my character. I started with a point in like pistol specialization.
Yeah.
And then it upgraded already because I killed like 20 people with a pistol.
Yo.
So it's like stuff like that.
That's quite a bit. There's the thing though as well. I mean, I always think of playing any of the Elder Scrolls, like if you run and jump enough, stat goes
you're
up.
right.
Yeah,
you upgrade those stats.
Just from
Skyrim was very much
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
No, that is true. So yeah, I don't know if you want to fast forward quickly to some gunplay. Yeah, because I spend a bunch of time in this.
Let's just look at this character creator. Well, before you bounce, I do want to say that from what I've seen, I mean, I haven't played the game myself, but just the level of background and traits, it feels like there's a lot of customization. Like there's a lot of role playing in that regard, which is very cool.
Yeah, there's a bunch of backgrounds and then a bunch of like you have to choose like 3 traits to assign yourself.
Yeah,
I really struggled to get to like assign a third one because I like 2 of them and the rest I didn't like think were that useful. But I guess that's part of the point. It's like they're all debuffs and buffs that change the way you play.
Yeah.
Also, if you're watching this footage and think it looks a bit like janky, that's straight up just the way I recorded it using PC. It just recorded in a weird format, and it was running really smoothly on PC.
Yeah, it's not indicative of how it runs on PC.
No, not at all. Not at all. It ran pretty great on PC. It looks really nice. It is a bit like heavy resource wise, I think. I mean, I'm on a 3080 Ti and I was running at 1440p and it was just hovering over 60.
Oh, nice.
So it is. It's quite hectic.
This will be a nice little game to test out my machine with. See if the
yeah, I
thermals
think
and everything
your
run.
machine will cope just fine with this. I think yeah, I think lower spec machines are going to struggle. But yeah, even I was watching some videos of like people trying to run it at 4K and even 4090 struggling to hit like 70, 80 frames per second. So it's a heavy game.
Yeah.
The one thing that I don't think you realize from the footage, and it was kind of jarring when it first happened, was how disjointed the world actually is. So, okay, so this is a test. How do you expect traversal works between planet, surface, and space?
Planet, surface, and space. You get into a spaceship.
Like get into a spaceship and just fly off the planet.
Yeah.
Like No Man's Sky vibe.
Yeah, well, like
okay, yeah, that's not how it works.
Like every other form of space travel I've seen in my life. How does it work?
So I was under the impression, maybe I wasn't focusing enough on, the trailers and whatever, but I was under the impression that you could just like take off and fly into the sky and
that's it.
That was it.
Oh no,
that's not how it works.
Is it like loading screens and stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's even a loading screen to get into your ship.
What?
Yeah, so you go to like your cargo hold and you press a button and you see a door open and a loading screen and then you're in your ship. And then you get into the pilot seat and you press takeoff and then it's like, cool, enter orbit, loading screen. Then you're in orbit.
I wonder if this isn't a limitation of the Xbox Series S. Purely because like why would you break it up like that? Even just to get into your ship. Like
I think it's more just a limitation of the way it's broken up reminds me a lot of previous Bethesda games. So I wonder if the engine is just, you think it's built to handle loading that way. Yeah. So when you're in orbit and you want to say land back on a planet, you have to this is the part that kind of bugs me. You have to open up your like inventory or your character, whatever, the menu, and then navigate to the map, and then it will bring up the planet you're nearby on, and then you have to rotate the planet, and there's multiple like different there could be one, there could be multiple landing zones. Then you have to press that and then like hold a button, and then you'll travel to the planet, and then you'll land there. And so now if you're in orbit and you want to travel to another planet, you've got to do the same thing. Then you've got to press like B to zoom out to like a solar system level of where you are. Then you press B again to zoom out to a more galaxy level thing. Then you chart the course to like the solar system you want to go. You press, you drill down into there, and you go to the planet that you want, and you can go straight to like a landing zone there. So you go, it almost like it's a fast travel straight from where you are to that landing zone. Or you can be like, no, I want to fast travel to orbit of that planet. But then you have to go through the same process again to land. So it's like,
a lot of admin.
It also makes the universe feel like not alive. You don't get a sense of travel between one or the other. So if everything is just a fast travel point, it might as well be just different cities with different visual makeups. Yeah, you don't get a sense of actually moving between one or the other. You know what I mean?
Look, it's weird because all that said, I do. If I sit and I think, again, like I'm not a game developer by any means, but I can't wrap my head around how would it look just arriving at a planet and just straight up landing. You know what I mean? What does that transition look like? So I don't know if they tried it. They're like, we just can't nail this. Or if it is the thing of it just makes more sense to be like, hey, we're going to separate space and planet exploration, and they're just two completely separate things. You'll link them with a loading screen, which is fine, but it is weird. Like I completely get you where it takes away from, the natural feel, quote unquote, of exploring different planets and flying around. Like how cool, like, I don't know, maybe you haven't seen this yet, but if I'm playing, for example, and I see a planet in the distance and I fly there, I kind of like the idea of just flying around it and just deciding to land somewhere. How does that work now? I go to that planet and then it's like, no, you hear.
Yeah, it almost feels like, so I tried to kind of do that, like move around a planet or move closer to it, and it just felt like I wasn't moving. Like as if I was just hovering in midair. Yeah. So Yeah, it is quite jarring, and I'm not gonna be like, oh, if a game like No Man's Sky can do it, this can do it. Like they are, they're completely different games. Like,
does No Man's Sky do that? Fine, you can literally just land on a planet. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
No Man's Sky is literally like you take off, you look at the sky, and you just like jet your way up, and then you're in atmosphere.
Okay.
And like it's completely seamless. But like No Man's Sky also doesn't have anywhere near the level of like detail and fidelity that it's trying to be loaded in from one planet to the next. So you know, I get it. I understand why. It just still feels a bit weird.
Yeah.
And the menus for navigating between galaxies is already a bit cumbersome, and I can see it being a problem. So yeah. But that's like my very brief early impressions of that. I've only just kicked off the story. I've like, you start as a miner and you discover this artifact, and suddenly this guy's like, you need to come to this group of people called Constellation who, you know, figure out the mysteries of the galaxy, and like, you're our savior. Like, you very quickly are like, you are some very important person because you found some glowing rocks in a mine.
This dude just handed you a Garmin watch. Amazing.
Yeah, I know. This dude's so generous. He gives you a watch and his ship.
Just straight up.
What a dude.
Yeah. I will say before we bounce that, like, again, I haven't played the game, but looking at the footage you recorded, visually, I love the design of the spacesuits and stuff. They look very detailed. The character models look quite good. So this is a weird game for me because, like, the last Bethesda game I played probably was, like, I missed Skyrim. I don't know why. I just never played it through all the iterations and all the re-releases and remasters. I've just never touched it. I think the last Bethesda game I properly played was Fallout 3. And I've told you this before, but I loved Fallout 3. I played the hell out of it until I reached the level cap, and I was like, I just bounced. But
you never finished the story?
I never finished the story. But I mean,
oh my God.
Think how long ago Fallout 3 was. That was a lifetime ago.
2007, if I'm not mistaken.
Really long time ago. And I enjoyed it a lot. I've just missed Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Skyrim. So I'm not hyped for Starfield necessarily, and that's not a knock against Bethesda at all. It's just I don't have a track record with them, but I'm like, not cautious, that's the wrong word. I'm curious to try it out. Like, I'm definitely going to try it out. And see.
I definitely think it's a game you should give a go. I'm also not knowing you and the types of games you enjoy.
I'll probably enjoy.
I'm not sure. Yeah, you might like. I can also see a lot of pieces of it that will cause friction with you, that you'll be like, this is kind of not my jam, you know.
Whatever. So I'm just gonna mainline the story.
I don't know. It's a tough sell. Well, not a tough sell again. Like, I think people who are looking for a game to sink into for the next couple of weeks, who, you know, don't have the fortune of having access to like every release that is coming out now, I think this is like the perfect game.
Yeah.
But like, with so much quality coming out in the next 2 months, like, will Starfield hold my attention completely? I don't know. I will say that it's made a very good, strong first impression. So that's good.
That's a win. Yeah, but it's quite a year, and it's actually wild to think that, you know, Starfield, a Bethesda title, like, is it going to be Game of the Year? Because there's just so much other good stuff.
I think without Baldur's Gate 3 out this year, it would probably be there for RPG of the Year just by virtue of being an RPG. But like, I think Baldur's Gate 3 has completely warped people's sense of what a role-playing game should be and what its sense of freedom. And you can already see that there's already been comparisons made being like, Starfield doesn't give me the level of freedom that a game like Baldur's Gate does. And this is exactly what people were saying a month ago. Like, this game is going to change the way RPGs are made because the expectation is different.
It's changed. So, good luck to RPG developers.